Welcome to the AGF podcast. I'm Brandon, co-owner of the American Grappling Federation and host of today's show. Before I get into today's interview, I'd like to thank our sponsors. First, BJJ Tees and Just Roll. For the best apparel in jiu-jitsu, check them out at any AGF tournament on Instagram or Facebook at BJJ Tees. That's at BJJTEES. Next, Easy Flex Mats. For your premier home, gym, or sports mats, go to easyflexmats.com. That's easyflexmats.com. Also, Tanita Scales, the official scales of the NCAA Wrestling Championships and the American Grappling Federation. Never miss weight by going to tanita.com. That's TANITA.com. Last, our 2020 charity, the ALS Association. To learn more about donating, events, or volunteering, go to alstexas.org. And now for today's show. AGF land, how you doing? I'm here, Brandon Quick. This is King Lewis, the wiener dog. This is Henzo. Yes, we named him after Henzo Gracie. But the most important is Levi Mowles.
What's up, guys?
So we are at my house at this one. Give a little bit of an introduction and background story. For those of you guys that don't know my relationship to Levi or anything like that, Levi is my first black belt. Just gave him his first stripe on his black belt.
Yep.
Have trained him since he was 12. Just turned 13.
13, yeah, 13.
I thought you were 12 and then you turned 13.
No. I was 13 and then just turned 14 when you got me.
Okay, so for a long time I've said 12.
Yeah.
But anyways, professional fighter now. Fights for LFA and other organizations. Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, obviously, competed a ton for AGF. So if you guys are AGF fans, I'm sure you've seen him either refereeing or competing. He killed it for a long time, and he kind of fizzled a little bit on the BJJ competition because he went hardcore into MMA. But that's my relationship with Levi. So, but there's a ton to talk about.
Yeah.
Definitely. Anyhow, we just got done training. Single X worm guard for an hour of just working.
Worming it out.
Yeah. Working the worm out.
Working the worm out.
Anyways, hey, you want to start off? Got anything to say?
No, man. Thanks for having me. I think the first one I ever watched of these, I was like, hey, dude, you should put me on this thing. I want to talk.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to talk. Well, so we got to imagine a lot of these people have never heard of us.
For sure.
So, walk them through your jiu-jitsu journey and in MMA. Give them a little breakdown.
Man, this kind of goes way back. So for those of you that don't know, I have a younger brother who's actually a black belt as well. Shout out to Garrett. He's actually due. Yeah, he was was he your number 7 or is he number 6?
6, I think, technically.
Yeah. So
I have 13 technically in the network, but I think 11 that I've given.
Yeah.
Right.
So 6 that you gave. Number 6 that you gave. But he's a black belt as well. He's due for his first stripe this year, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, so me and Garrett started jiu-jitsu back when I was 13. He was 12. But it went back further than that, man. Me and him, that sibling rivalry was always a thing. Anything we ever did was a competition between the two of us. So it was
13 months apart.
Yeah, he's 13 months younger than me. So it was always a competition. It's just two rowdy, rough boys that grew up in a simple country home. And sometimes it goes beyond just trying to win at a video game or trying to win at a competition or a sport. It goes to where we would actually duke it out in front of our parents, and they were like, man. At one point we were playing pee-wee football, and we would still get into plenty of fights between the two of us. And at one point they were like, all right, we can't continue to let you beat up on each other,
without knowing how to beat up.
Yeah, exactly. Without knowing how to do it correctly. So they're like, if you want, we're gonna take you and try to enroll you in a martial art. and maybe that'll help you get some more energy out. Maybe that'll help you channel this aggression that you have towards each other towards something positive. So originally, we went to a friend of ours who was on our Pee Wee football team, who he recommended a spot, and it was out of some dude's garage. His name is Mark Stonish. I know you remember Mark and Lane. They came to you after they closed their spot in their garage. But so we did like 6 months there of basic, like, oh, this is what a takedown is, sort of like this is what mount is. So we kind of got like, not even like the basics, but like just understanding of like, oh, grappling is like we fight on the floor, right? And then after that, they closed their spot in their garage. So we especially myself, fell in love with it in that 6 month period. And at that point, I was like 12 years old, and then from then we were continually looking for something. And then I believe in 2008, you came to Texas, and then seven. But so shortly after all this was going on, you came to Texas and opened up in Waxahachie, and we
took me a year to pronounce that city.
Yeah, Waxahachie.
They say Waxahachie.
Yeah, but so with all that going on, you had just started like a kids program not too long into that, within that year from 2007 to 2008, and then after that they closed their shop, and then we were like, well, we got to find a spot, and you were the closest spot to us. You were 25 minutes, 30 minutes away from us, so we were like, well, we want to keep doing this jiu-jitsu thing, so let's go find a spot that's semi-close that we can go train at. And, you know, you had just moved in and you had a kids program, and we're like, all right, cool, well, let's go give it a shot. And from then on, it was history. We walked in the door and kind of never looked back.
And then you and your brother became my problem.
Yeah, we definitely became your problem.
So, and then you're going to remember your journey and walk a little bit more than me. Obviously, you're my first black belt. I know you the most, blah, blah, all that kind of stuff. But how long were you in kids class? Because I know you guys were at the teenage level, and, you know, I started letting the teenagers cross-train with the adults.
I think after the first year, I think I completely stopped, because there were some kids about my size in the kids class. But after about the first year, right after we stopped doing strictly nogi, it became like, no, you should do adults class. You're 120 pounds anyway, so you should.
Yeah.
You know.
We had like Mikey and Dalton and those kind of guys that would.
Well, you also had you had smaller dudes as well, Sam and Dan. They were both.
Shout out to Dan Hunt.
He
just texted me this morning talking about how he twisted a dude.
That's awesome.
That's what's up. I twisted a dude last week in a competition.
But yeah, so both of those guys weren't like super huge dudes either. So like for me to go and roll with them wasn't like, you know,
200 pounds.
Yeah, it wasn't a 200-pound dude that was rolling with a 13-year-old 120-pound kid. So they were closer to my size, so it was like really easy for me to make the transition.
So you always came in wanting to fight, as in like MMA, not street fighting. But your brother not so much, but he did it once. But well, so you grew up in a different era than me. I started jiu-jitsu in the 90s, and so you grew up. What was it? Uriah Faber was your era? What was it?
I grew up watching. If you're asking me who I grew up watching, the first UFC fight I ever watched, I think it was Chuck Liddell versus like Tito Ortiz.
Yeah,
it was like I grew up watching those guys. Like the lighter weight classes, I wasn't really known until I was closer to like 16.
Yeah, I think they also had WEC. They
weren't big, but the UFC guys, like I couldn't have told, like who I grew up watching. Like I said, was like Chuck Liddell, and he was a big striker. You know, so it was like those are the guys that. So it was like, oh, I want to learn how to do everything, grapple as well as throw punches. So
you always wanted to fight MMA.
Yeah, always. Yeah. It was always something that was like jiu-jitsu, and I love jiu-jitsu. Don't get me wrong, but it was always something that was like, I think I could be pretty good at this, and it looked fun to me, because like I said, me and Garrett would go back and forth and scrap all the time, and that was fun for me then. So it became fun for me.
Yeah. Some people don't get that. Like,
no,
getting punched in the face is not fun. I'm like, it's not like you're just getting punched in the face
it's
alone.
Not. Yeah,
there's a lot more.
There's a lot more to it.
That's funny. And so, I mean, back at that beginning phase, Shout out to Tanner Hawkinsmith. I did a podcast with him. He's the Texas ALS executive director. For you guys that listen to the other podcasts on ALS, Tanner taught wrestling at my Waxahachie school for 4.5 years.
Yep.
And
had a big influence on the way I wrestle now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
yeah, he even taught me stuff. And then we also had sambo. We had kickboxing. We had guys come through and teaching. We had Brazilians actually visit from Brazil. We had now famous Marcio Andre and Isaac Behense, he's over the lines, but they were underneath Bruno Bastos at the time I was training with Bruno. They even stayed over at your house and stuff like that.
Yeah, man, that was a trip. That was pretty crazy, actually.
Yeah, and then who was the other one? Kaiwe Marciano.
Yeah.
So we got to meet a lot of those guys, and you got to cross train with all kinds of stuff. I took you to Lone Star Boxing. Was it Lone Star? No, it was
Maple Ave.
Maple Avenue in Dallas, which had like an Olympian, pro fighters, all kinds of stuff.
That's where Earl Spence, now one of the champs for, can't think of the organization in the boxing community, but one of the champions, like Earl Spence was out of Maple Ave, so.
Yeah.
So
you've got a lot of cross training in, and then eventually another podcast guest is Johnny Bedford. He's a current bare knuckle champ, fought UFC, and I wanted you to train because I'm 210, guys. And when I first moved to Texas, I was lifting weights and I was 240, and not fat, but like literally like I was like lifting weights. I came over and I started to lose that weight from like no weightlifting. I just did kickboxing and jiu-jitsu, and actually we had Krav Maga at the gym. I was one of the first Krav Maga affiliates in the state of Texas. A lot of people don't realize that part of me.
It's kind of crazy too.
It gets made fun of, but I'm like, all right, let's knife fight then. So there was a lot of exposure there, and I think that's one of the bigger things that I have with you over some of my other, not just black belts, but students, is you were with me in an era where you were exposed to a lot of other things.
Yeah, not just straight jiu-jitsu. Like you said, we did kickboxing, we did Krav Maga. I remember distinctly, like we had a plastic gun, and some days you were like, today we're gonna fight for the gun, and it's like you would walk by us and be like, throw it on the mat, and we'd have to fight for the gun, and it's like if you won, you got shot, or you didn't.
Yeah.
So that was kind of crazy. But I always thought it like, in a sense, like whatever the case is, I was just there putting in the work. So for me, that was always whatever we were doing that day was fun. So
yeah, I missed that part.
Sure.
And then I think another reason why you're so good at leg locks and defending them is because you were exposed to them as a teenager.
For sure.
For you guys listening, Riley Bodycomb, he's fought in Polaris and trains with Ryan Hall and runs his own. He's out of American Sambo Association. He's taught all over the United States and the world. Riley did his first DVDs at my gym, and Levi was an orange belt in the pictures.
Yeah, it was crazy.
But I showed you leg locks from the beginning.
Yeah, and that's something I think I attributed a lot to you as well. Is I don't think there was any pulled punches. Like even from the beginning, it was like I remember one time I was grappling with a kid, and I went for like not even knowing what a knee bar was, but I like just grabbed his leg and like got him to extend it, and I got it tapped. And I remember the kid's dad like being like verbally upset, and like kind of was like, "Oh, you shouldn't do leg locks as a kid." And you're like you kind of like were
why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, like what's the problem? So. I think because of the way you are as a coach, you just kind of like threw us out there and like this is what everything is. You didn't really hide anything from us, and I think that was really good. And I think that is what helped me evolve into like being good at defense as well as just my all around game is pretty well rounded because you didn't hide anything from us. Like it was never like I was a step behind anyone.
And I see what you're saying about, and sometimes I wouldn't just say hide, but I would say also like, even not just today's day and age, I think it is a little bit different than as we've gotten further away from the 90s and when the Brazilians first came, and it's completely self-defense based. Not completely, I mean, they still had sport, but the sport has grown immensely. I went from being a full-time coach to a full-time promoter. We do the AGF podcast. But some people just don't train that way. So
No,
I don't think that they're necessarily hiding
it from him, but like they just leave it out of their game.
Yeah.
It's like
No, some people do hide it.
Yeah, but I mean, you expose us to everything.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I think it's very it's very different now.
Yeah, I've witnessed a lot of changes in the 13 years now, almost 13.
How old are you now?
24. I'll be 25 this June.
Yeah.
So it's 11. Sorry, my math is off. But yeah, going on 11 years of jiu-jitsu now, I've witnessed a ton of changes, like in the short amount of time that I've been doing it.
For sure. And I think it's also just coincidence. I had trained with knives and guns. I've trained other martial arts. I've trained all that and kind of did that Bruce Lee concept, like take out the BS and add what's yours, but keep the good and make it your own. And then still training police and military and stuff like that. I had to always have that in my back pocket.
For sure.
You know? So then we're a teenager. Our beginning of our relationship was many, many miles on the road with your father.
Yeah.
So we were
had a few words, but fly on the wall.
He got more later on.
He's gotten better, especially now,
But the scene was just different.
Yeah.
Even in Texas.
For sure. I mean, it's not like there wasn't there. It was definitely growing, especially at the time that I started training. Like there was tournaments, but you'd have maybe instead of now one every week or two every weekend. You know, you'd have one every 2 weeks, and you'd have to travel to Houston. It was not the scene that it is today, where you have one in Houston, one in Dallas, and another one in Dallas on the same day.
Yeah.
And you'd have that 3 times a month.
Yeah, now promoters think that they spaced it out enough because it's not the same weekend.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like,
not
dude,
the same.
Nobody's going back to back to back to back.
No.
It's a trip. Yeah, so we went down there and went to Houston a lot.
Houston, San Antonio, traveled all over Texas to compete.
I think back then, though, especially with Houston over San Antonio and Austin. I feel like we went to Austin a couple
times. But Houston, I think, was the bigger scene. Especially, it was like Houston and Dallas. Houston and Dallas were the big scenes in jiu-jitsu for Texas.
And MMA,
Yeah.
We would go around. I'd be reffing, coaching the kids as in Levi and Garrett. We would go some places as a team, but especially with his dad, I would go ref. And
then you would try to scoot some cash or something while me and Garrett got to compete.
That was good. And then you kept training, went into, and you had some highlight jiu-jitsu before you even get into MMA.
Yeah.
I mean, I've got pictures of you up on top of people's backs. You were a stud, dude.
I don't try to toot my own horn, but I appreciate that. Thank you.
Went to, I mean, you were beating purple belts as a green belt. You were at that range, and then man, we did a ton of IBJJFs as well too.
There was a whole year where we were just on the warpath. You were
more than a year for sure. It was a 2-year span, but yeah. I went to a few more than you with Daniel Almeida.
Yeah. Well, you just had the ability to travel more. I was still in school at the time as well. So.
Oh yeah. And that time we got stuck in Miami.
Yeah, I actually missed 3 days of school because we got stuck in over the weekend to Wednesday.
Chicks on the beach trying to sell the 15-year-old kid ecstasy.
Yeah, I was like, what's going on? I didn't know what was happening.
Don't worry about it, Levi.
Go the other way.
With Phoenix, we did Phoenix, Miami, Nogi Pans, Worlds.
Multiple times.
Yeah, multiple times. Yeah, Houston, Dallas. And now there's a lot more cities that they cover and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure. Just like I said, watching the growth and development of even just the IBJJF since I started jiu-jitsu to now, it's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. They're in Manila and Poland and all that. Hey, I'm going to Poland. But so you were killing it in jiu-jitsu. I always felt like you were very gifted in jiu-jitsu. Your brother was too. Garrett, for you guys who don't know, actually walked on to West Wayland University and is wrestling right now in college as well.
Yeah, Garrett's doing really good.
He's a black belt that transferred over to the sport of wrestling. If you guys are doing, look at Chris Brennan's son and stuff like that.
Yeah,
people are going
crazy.
Back and forth between jiu-jitsu and wrestling. It's crazy. So you were killing it in jiu-jitsu. You went in super fights, absolute divisions. As a teenager, you were scoring on Brandon Mullins, right?
I remember that,
you were really killing it in jiu-jitsu, and I think you made a good name for yourself.
especially in the local area, I think not everybody, but I think a majority of the people in the Texas scene, maybe in like
Oklahoma.
Louisiana, Oklahoma, like I think they all know me pretty well, and like I didn't venture out too far outside of my little realm just because of where I was at in terms of like my family's financial situation. But I tried really hard, and I there was always something about jiu-jitsu that I enjoyed the competition aspect of it. I always thought it was more freeing than just going and rolling with the same people every day. I get to try my game on new people, which is something that I still enjoy today. Like I love when someone new comes into the gym and I get to roll with that person. That's cool. That's awesome.
What is it that you like, or what goes to your mind when you're doing competition jiu-jitsu? Because as your coach, I've learned a few things about you.
The more that it's been a while since I've competed. Hell, it's been almost a year since I've done a jiu-jitsu competition. But I think the more I do jiu-jitsu now, it's try to be more cerebral in my approach to how I approach the match. Before, especially at purple and brown, like I would try to settle in and calm myself down, and then really just hammer towards my game. Now it's more like I'm more open to flow wherever the match goes, and just try to be ready, and then capitalize on my opponent's mistakes, especially now at black belt.
Do you intentionally like to highlight people? Because you do highlight people.
There is a part of me that likes to be flashy. It's awesome when you're rolling and like you catch the attention of other people, like watchers by in the crowd. They might not even be watching you, but they catch movement, and when you're flashing in your movement, like heads turn and want to look at you, and I like that. So it's also why I enjoy MMA. It's like you're locked in the cage with another person. All the eyes are on you at that point.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. Well, even in today's jiu-jitsu, you got YouTube, so people are recording, so their heads turn later.
Yeah, for sure.
So I didn't know if you intentionally want to go out there, because I learned as your coach in the beginning. I used to be like, trying to guide you through it, and then I learned that you like to observe, I guess you could say it, the beginning of the match, 30 seconds to a minute. Just seeing if that dude's blasting a shot, or if he's trying to arm drag you, or if he's trying to pull guard or whatever, so you kind of feel people out.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And then I've learned, take him down, Levi, and then he jumps guard, and I'm like, that's complete opposite. And then I'm like, so I learned to let, and that was probably purple belt. I started letting you just do something.
Yeah, play my game, and like I said earlier at the like purple and brown level, it was more like I had a plan, and it was more about like I would find my comfort zone and then go forward with my plan. Now it's more like go do what the fuck you want. That's how I think about my jiu-jitsu now.
I think you like to test yourself too, though.
For sure.
Because if I was like, dude, this guy's passing is really good, Levi would pull guard, and I'd be like, why would you pull guard on the passer? Why would you pull guard on the passer? And he was like, well, I wanted to work my guard on him. I'm like, okay, freaking teenager. But in reality, competition's a test.
Yeah, it's the ultimate test. There's nothing more exciting than going with someone that you don't train with every day, and that's why it's like, for me, that's what this competition aspect of jiu-jitsu, especially for MMA as well, is what it's about. You get to test yourself against the unknown. Yeah. And now, we were talking about twisters. I got a competition twister the other day, but it's nothing. You probably got I don't know how many you got, but you actually did one in MMA. Yes, sir, I did. Well, I think the number's grown since then, but I think I'm like one of like 14. Like in pro MMA to like have a twister finish. You
were the second from what not in pro MMA. I shouldn't say that, because I know Gerald Striebman from 10 Planet had one like long time ago, but it became real popular when Korean Zombie did it in the UFC.
In the UFC against Leonard Garcia.
And then you did it, and then some chick in ONE FC did it like 2 weeks later.
I know. Stole your thunder. Stole my thunder, man.
We did it in LFA.
Yeah, it was a nice scene, but at that point, I had only had, I think, like 3 pro fights. I was still young on the scene. I wasn't even on the televised portion of that card. So it actually kind of flew under the radar more than.
So for you guys listening, I'm in the back, and I think Levi's superior to this guy. I'm in the back of the MMA fights, right, before we go out. And I think Levi's jiu-jitsu is superior to this guy. So I'm like, look, you can just like take his back and get a rear naked choke and end the fight, or you could do something. You could twister them, or you can banana split them or something.
Yeah.
Try and gain
Try
sponsors.
to gain some. So yeah, make your I think your words were like be a highlight reel and go finish them with something that you wouldn't normally finish them with. Like you'd already had like a rear naked choke finish. Like go do something that people haven't seen.
Yeah,
you know?
gain sponsors, dude. And you went
Yeah.
out there, and then you went to the back, and I was like, no, twister.
Yeah, I remember distinctly like being on his like turtle position, like hook's already in, and you were like, I rolled to the truck and like tried to calf slicer him, and you're like, no, twister him, no. I like had locked up calf slicer, I was about to like crank it, and he's like, no, twister him. I completely let go and grabbed his arm and started to go to the twister, and then I finished him a few seconds later.
To a lot of people, that is a flashy technique. It's like the ultimate, and they have no idea how much we do it at our gym.
Oh, dude, yeah, we had this conversation the other day.
Even if it's not the full twister, it's 3/4 of the process, or trucking, or calf slicing. Like I hit the truck every single.
Yeah, there's a part of me, and it's not like every single roll, but it's like definitely every night there's a truck battle that goes on in our gym.
Yeah, for sure. We call it the GTA Grand Theft Auto. We're switching trucks on each other. So
Yeah, we're trying to
pretty
steal each other's
crazy.
car.
And we have counters and escapes and arm triangles and arm locks that we defend with that I think
Yeah, it makes our defense better.
hardly anybody knows.
Yeah.
Val Ignatov from California, the Russian guy, showed me that one arm lock,
Armbar, yeah,
and I
across
just
the
am
side.
stuck with that. And I'm talking when someone's putting a twister on me, I can arm lock
Bar
them.
them. Yeah, to counter and to get out.
Pretty dope.
Pretty cool.
And that was definitely a system that we play a lot, and it got you some good MMA success. Now we don't mess around too much anymore. Now we're into the pro days.
Yeah. Well, that was a pro, but it was still early on. I think that was like my third fight. Like
I coached you up to what, 9-0 in amateur?
8-0 as an amateur,
8-0?
and then I think
Half your
I would want to say like half, maybe a little less. But you got me like to like my first 5 to 6 pro fights as well. So
and then your full record now?
I'm 13-4.
13-4, and all those 4 losses, tough dudes.
Oh, tough dudes, and none of them were. I didn't get subbed or TKO'd or knocked out
Finished.
or any of them. All of those. Yeah, I didn't get finished in any of them. All of them were by decision, and a couple of them were splits.
Yeah, and they were like
Real close fights.
late notice fights, UFC vets, a weight class higher.
Yeah,
something.
like 3 of them were. 2 of them. Sorry, 2 of them were in a weight class higher than I normally fight at, and then the other guys were like guys in the UFC right now and in Bellator. Like they're tough guys. It was like it was not an easy fight to go win, and then a couple of them were split decision too as well. So I was like, dang.
Getting knocking on the doors of the UFC.
Hoping so. I've been talking to my manager all the time, and it's looking good this year. The Contender Series coming back. Well, from what my manager tells me, Jason House, shout out to Iridium Sports. From what they're telling me, I have a great shot to get on the Contender program this year, and then it's about keeping my weight low in case they get a short notice call at any point. I'm on a short list of fighters, but I got to stay low enough to make the weight on short notice.
Yeah. You love cutting weight.
No, I don't.
He's got a Mexican girlfriend. Get that good old Mexican food at the house.
Yes, I love you, Ashley. I love you.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Stop with the burritos.
Yeah, can't eat the carne asada.
Oh, that's my favorite, bro.
Yeah, I know.
Carne asada is where it's at.
Yeah. But
that's funny.
yeah, man. So that's right now. That's the biggest struggle for me is trying to stay low enough to make weight on a week's notice. So, but other than that, if I keep fighting, keep going at the pace I'm going at, they can't deny me forever, right? Like 13-4, I have a pretty good record as far as like other prospects are concerned. So
Yeah. And so right now, you guys, are you guys done building your parents were building a house?
Yeah.
Did you guys build that?
No. Now originally the plan was to try to build one, but what they ended up doing was they bought a mobile home, but they got gifted a plot of land from my aunt, from Aunt Rana, because they have a 6-acre plot. But anyways, so they got gifted an acre of land on that 6 acres, and they moved their mobile home out to it, and then they have slowly been building on it. They have a nice driveway, and Dad's been building a carport in the back, and now he's starting to build his deck and like do all the stuff that he actually wants to do at a house.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so, but yeah, they're all moved in there. And just recently, me and Ashley moved out. So, you know, that's what it is.
Yeah. Well, you're closer to the gym now.
Yes. For those of y'all that don't know, I was driving 45 minutes to go train at F3.
At least.
That's on a good day with like minor traffic. And on a hard day, you get an hour 15 of drive time, you know, just to get to the gym after work.
And that's by choice too. Like a lot of people don't realize that. Like there is a lot of people that go to because they don't know any better or care. In truth, that and so they just go to the gym that's closest to them on Google Maps, especially when they first look for jiu-jitsu. Then there's people who get a little bit more serious and they start going to gyms in which they will help them pursue their goals.
Correct.
Right? Whether it's jiu-jitsu, MMA, anything. And so you're one of those guys that is, unfortunately, your family lives out in the country already.
We do.
So,
we live out in the sticks.
Yeah, even if you went to a closer gym, you're still gonna drive anyway.
Yeah, I mean, it turned it from a 25 minute to a 30 minute drive to, as I said, hour 15 sometimes.
And so that's dedication right there, but also knowing what you're gonna get, you know. So
yeah, I went with the intention of like F3 was especially like me, like you brought me to Johnny early on, you know. He was in the UFC at the time, and like I hit it off with him. Like been training with him now for 6 years, going on 6 years, something 7 years now.
Goes the same weight class.
Same weight class, you know. He's a grizzled veteran of the sport as well. It's like he'd been fighting 30-something fights before he even made it to the UFC, you know. So he's been around the game a long time, and I knew I'd want someone like that in my corner and to help me pursue my MMA career. So.
Yeah. What do you like about Fitness Fight Factory now? I mean,
you know, I think we have a great team, especially like all the guys, not all, but like a majority of us are actually all the same weight class. You know, you got Devin Miller, Charlie Spolstra, Cody, and then his girlfriend Valerie. You like all the guys that I'm training with on a daily basis are close to my size, so I get good goes and like, you know, so. It just bodes well for great training when you can have a team that's in there pushing you and you're all about the same size that, you know, can really give you a good hard push for your camp and get ready for a fight.
You got Casillas boxing in there.
Yeah, with Raph.
Yeah. Which I'm glad about because you had, you know, like I said before, we took you to Maple. I've been boxing. I had taught Muay Thai.
Yeah, early on in the days.
I probably taught you 5 years of that at least or something.
Oh, dude, yeah, just close to like 4 to 5 years of it.
And but some people don't realize what it's like to get into a ring with a boxer.
Oh, it's totally different world.
Yeah, and then when we went to Maple Avenue, I was like, Levi, you're the only white kid.
I definitely was the only white kid in the gym.
You're coming from the MMA world.
Yeah, you know? So that was strike two.
Yeah, strike two. I was like, you know, they're gonna put it on you. They hit really hard to the body, like they're gonna go for it. And yeah, and so I wanted you to have that though, just like we do in the amateur world. You could lose all you
want. Yeah, it's not. There's nothing to prove in the gym. There never was.
So then I wanted you to get that boxing, and now Raf's very active in the boxing scene in terms of a coach and box himself. So that's good. And then Johnny's the current bare knuckle fighting champion.
Yeah. So
I do not want to do that. All the props to him.
Maybe when I retire from fighting and all that, I'll try it. Maybe. I don't know.
You don't care about the facial cuts?
No, I don't care anymore. After my ears turned into chicken nuggets on the side of my head, I don't care anymore.
And and so the training partners, Devin being, you know, another black belt and training. Evan Cuts too, even though he's a little heavier, but I
mean, he's still great training. That's another thing, you know. That's what it was for me. What really bonded me to F3 was like just the training. Even if like there wasn't a guy on my skill level there, we were just training hard like every day, and I really like that grind. And especially now, is the more I've trained and the more I've gotten like older in the sport, like I just enjoy like the consistency of like, oh, we're gonna come in and put in work today, and that I feel like that is what sets some of what I do apart from like other guys in the community, in the MMA community. You know, I just come in and fucking grind every day, and that's what I like about the sport as well too.
Another thing I like about it is we get a lot of people who come through.
Yeah,
you know, and for various reasons, like I mean, you would get some boxers with Rock, but let's talk Johnny. We had like Peg, Dustin Peg, right, from the Ultimate Fighter show, and Will Campazano, who's on another podcast, right? Chaz Skelly, just people like
Pat
that.
Curran,
Pat Curran is is it feather 145?
Yeah,
featherweight champ of Bellator for a while. He was down here for a year, and being Big Wig Jiu-Jitsu headquarters, my headquarters for my affiliates, we have the annual camps. I mean, right now we have a guy from Osaka, Japan that's here for 3 weeks training.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of people that come through over there a lot. I think that you don't get that at average gyms. So having
it's pretty nice. Like I said, especially with someone who enjoys the opportunity to test my stuff on someone new. It keeps me entertained, keeps me interested, and keeps me wanting to go back and train.
Yeah, we have high profile coaches that brings in those extra people, and Len Bentley, my other black belt, he's UFC vet, and he was on the Ultimate Fighter show before John, stuff like that. But he's there to stay, though. He's not just visiting. That's what I really like about it as well, too. And then having the annual camps, that means we get guys like Kevin Williams in and Thomas Longacre and all that kind of stuff.
For sure.
That's what I enjoy about where you come in some days and you just don't know who might
do it. Yeah, who might be on the mat. Yeah.
Sometimes it's Kamaru Usman's brother, and you're like, oh Lord, you're large. Or it's a dude who can't speak English from Japan. That's interesting. So your brother did one amateur fight. Wasn't his thing. It's not his thing. He likes the grappling aspect more. Got into wrestling.
Yeah. It was kind of weird. I never thought he'd put on gloves in his life. From a young age, like even when we would hit each other, like he would never want to hit me back. So it was always weird to think that Garrett wanted to do an MMA fight, but I think he wanted to do it more to prove to himself that hey, I'm doing this jiu-jitsu thing, which is it's a combat sport, and I want to prove that a full-grown man that's resisting what I'm trying to do to him and trying to punch me and beat me up, it works.
I felt like he wanted to just test his jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, though. I felt like he wanted to go out there and this is as close as you can simulate an actual street fight.
Yeah, speaking of street fights, you guys were good kids, graduated. Everyone in your school, even on Facebook, that kind of stuff, compliments you and stuff. Did you or Garrett ever get into actual full-blown fist fights?
I always can count on my hand, as many times as I've ever had an altercation outside of the gym or outside of a ring. There's one I can recall, and I wouldn't even call it a street fight. It was right before I started training jiu-jitsu, honestly.
So that's pre-13.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But you know how kids are. You talk a little shit, and then you go up to fight, and he's like, "Yeah, we'll fight in the bathroom tomorrow morning." And I show up, and on the way to the bathroom in the courtyard, I was like, "I ain't fighting in the bathroom." And I just turned around and socked him, and then we got split up, and that was it. And I was like, "It's not even a street fight. It's you threw one punch, and that was over."
Yeah. Which is interesting though, because you have guys like myself. I've been in a ton of fights. Now, I have not been in the MMA fights that you have. I did amateur before, but not on near at all what you did. But I was in a ton of street fights growing up in Los Angeles, and there is that element of adrenaline, and it is very scary on the street. Obviously, there's gangs, you can get jumped, all that kind of crazy stuff.
People could have it, like you said, a weapon.
Get arrested.
Especially in Texas, we're in the yeehaw state of
pistols.
Everyone's got a gun here.
What'd you say? So it's interesting to be on such a high level of martial arts and fighting, and a professional fighter, and yet not have been in a full blown knockdown
drag out street fight. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, which is cool. I remember one incident. I was living in Fort Worth over at my apartment with Christina before we moved over to this house, and I saw on Snapchat that you were at one of the bars or clubs over there.
Oh, right.
And I was like, what are you doing? Why didn't you tell me you were coming out here? You don't go out by yourself like that and you're like, coach, I'm a pro fighter.
I'm a grown pro fighter.
I'm a black belt.
Yeah, I'm a black belt. I'm 21. I can go out and drink.
I just looked at my phone and I was like, damn, I guess he's right. And I'm old. And I'm like, you're old.
Yeah,
I'm older.
like, damn, I'm old.
And then I was like, I guess he's right. And then, you know, what came over me is the truth was a great feeling of satisfaction. It was a feeling of satisfaction that, because your goal is to fight MMA. But my goal was to teach people the martial arts. One of my favorite things ever is when maybe I showed someone for a day, maybe I trained someone for 10 years, but they go to move away. They get a divorce, their job changes, whatever the heck may happen, and they move away and they continue the martial arts.
Oh, yeah,
that's one of my favorite feelings as a person and a coach is to give people that bite and
that
love.
Spark. Yeah.
And so, because some people can get a sour taste in their mouth from some instructors.
No, for sure. It means you left a good impression on them. Like they want to continue. Yeah, you enjoyed it.
And because there's a culture, there's a gym life, there's a respect, there's
many aspects.
Yeah, there's a ton. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess Levi can defend himself. So I was like, all right, I just looked at my phone. I was like, I guess I don't have to get out of bed then. I would have got up and just gone and hung out with you.
Yeah, I know.
Don't touch him. No. You guys gotta understand, they were little 13-year-old kids.
Yeah, I'm sure Brandon still has memories as my parents do of like waddling on the mat. Like, we're gonna do jiu-jitsu today.
Little buzz cuts.
Yeah.
And in Texas, you can't color your hair crazy or do mohawks during the school year.
Yeah, so in certain schools, but yeah, in our school.
So summer comes and the boys got blue and red mohawks and green, yellow.
Yeah, we have some crazy hair colors in the summer.
So that's my memories. And then training, okay, so you're in your 20s, but for 7 years, from 13 to 20, you're teenagers. You know what I mean? Like, so it's hard to get that out of our head.
Oh, I'm sure. That was the majority of the time spent with me.
I'm like, what do you mean you moved in with your girlfriend? What are you talking? In a house?
In a
house?
Wait, what?
It was an apartment?
Yeah, we have an apartment now.
You haven't been invited me over. But anyways, so it is difficult to think about that. So now you've known me in terms of a coach and in terms of starting AGF.
Yeah.
What do you think of the competitions that you've refereed and competed overseas with us?
Yeah, I have. It's been a wild ride, man.
You fought overseas in Trinidad, where I also teach and do seminars.
I go back to
Trinidad in April.
It's been a wild ride, man. I can honestly say I've enjoyed every minute of it, though. It's just something about the sport that is like, I as soon as I stepped on the mats in that garage, and then especially when I came to you and actually learned like what the martial arts more or less was about, and better than a basic understanding of like, oh, this is grappling. It's like, oh no, this is a martial art, and we're gonna learn how to do things. Like, I don't know, from day one I was hooked, and it's been something that I plan on continuing throughout like my lifespan until I die. Like, I have this joke, it's a running thing that I talked with all the guys. It's like, one day I'm just gonna be like 80 and walk on the mat and be like, it's my time. And I'm just going to let y'all choke me. And I'm like, all right.
Well, what do you think of the development of AGF? What do you I mean, you've been around since it was Killer Apps.
Yeah, since it was Killer Apps, when we had to move zebra mats. And it wasn't roll out.
I'm back at that phase in Europe.
Oh,
I know.
I feel sorry for those guys. Yeah. No, I think it's awesome. I know you're doing great for your family. And, man, to imagine what it has become, like to try to think of like it was, and I'm sure you probably saw it more than I ever did, but it was like to think like, oh, it's gonna grow to this level. That's pretty insane, pretty crazy. I've enjoyed watching your progress of just like becoming like the head and the face and like running all these tournaments across the globe now, not even just in the country. It's like pretty cool.
I think part of it is putting it out there vocally, mentally.
Yeah. Little
ESP. Not saying I'm psychic. I'm not saying that, people. Okay.
All right.
But like a lot of people, religious people, like speak it out. You know, and some people without religion, they're like, you put thought
into existence to exist, and you have to go and just make it.
I just believe that if you want a tournament to happen in Germany, that you need to pick up the phone and see how much the place costs. So once you put action into it, then the ball's rolling. You know,
then it's just about making moves to get it done.
Yeah, I'll talk to people. Like I was just talking to one of the guys who's bringing me over. I'm teaching in Kuala Lumpur in this summer. I got invited to teach over there, and I was like, well, there's tournaments over there, so like, and then they're like, oh yeah, we run with this mall and blah blah blah. They kind of like, I think I seen one in the Manila, Philippines or something like that. They're doing them all, and I was like, well, how much does it cost to go to the mall? How much does it cost? I just start now. I'm prepared. Now I have a list of things I need to know.
What you need to ask.
But the truth is all I need is a facility date. And the facility rented, and everything after that follows. I'm not going to go get refs and all that stuff first, you know. And even mats, I don't care. Well, everywhere in the world pretty much has judo mats or wrestling mats.
Some kind of something.
Yeah, and so it's like, you know, just put it to thought. But yeah, you were around. I mean, you were reffing. You were.
Yeah. I started wrestling with you, and then I started competing. And I honestly enjoy I'm competing at AGF. I enjoy the system, the way y'all do it, more than almost every other tournament in the world. I think IBJJF is where you got your model from, and now you kind of branched off and made your own thing. But I enjoy the way you run the times, the brackets, and then just the way I think it's structured as well. You're always open to kind of molding jiu-jitsu into what you see fit as jiu-jitsu is, you know what I'm saying? It's not so much as like sticking to a strict adhered rule system. You're always open to interpretation. You know,
Lewis, be quiet. Lewis, we're doing a podcast, sir. Thank you. Anyways.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, no, so part of it, the development of stuff with Chris has, you know, in the background with some of the software development is awesome. In terms of like expanding and going to different cities has been very enjoyable. But I mean, before you went hardcore into MMA, you were one of my
hard chargers,
main refs.
That too.
To this day, like I just posted on Facebook the other day a question about rules with you.
Yeah.
So me and Levi guys, I will literally be in a position while I'll be rolling, and I'll come over. I'm like, Levi,
what do you think about this?
If he spun around me on like this and I set him down, is it a takedown? Is it like, you know, like
well, you encounter crazy positions in jiu-jitsu all the time, and like sometimes, especially as a ref, it becomes hard to like. Was that a 2-point take? Was that a takedown? Was that a sweep or something? You know.
I give a lot of credit to. I had to know the rules. Don't get me wrong. So some of it is me, but I give a lot of credit all the way back to Bruno Bastos.
Oh, for sure.
Bruno. Shout out to Bruno and his crew. But he taught the rules game. He taught the advantage game. We don't use advantages for points at AGF, but we use it for subs. But I mean, we knew, it seems like you and I, when we would get in discussions with people or just refereeing, we know the specifics
of a rule. It's like, you know, and especially if you're going to be a ref, like you should try to know the ins and outs of what you're doing, because you're not just messing up on your part. You're messing up someone else's experience.
Yeah,
and as for someone that loves the martial arts as well as much as you and I do, it's like that's important. Like you don't want to.
Oh, it's totally different now that I got kids, my own kids competing.
Oh, I'm sure.
As a coach, I always got mad if there was a bad...
Yeah.
You know, but when it's like my son, I'm like,
sure.
Hold up a minute. Hold up.
You got that rule wrong.
Well, did you see what we did recently? We implemented instant replay.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. So we got these big old bean bags on the coaches' chairs. You got a red one and a blue one.
Yeah.
And you're allowed 2 instant replays a tournament. So that we don't just have people throwing it
all the time.
So when they throw it in, the ref stops the match right away. And we don't have, if we had flow grappling, it would be different, like with the cameras on every single mat. But you know, there's cameras at every mat anyways because of people recording. But they have a couple minutes to supply the video. Another ref. So it can't be that ref.
Well, probably, but most likely a head ref like Chris Westfall or myself if I was reffing or something.
Yep, but it could be any other ref because maybe Chris is
busy doing a match right now.
Yeah, and so it's any other ref or myself or, you know, even like Brad Phillips, for example, he runs the pit for me, but he's a ref as well.
Yeah,
so anyone that's a
available.
Ref. And so that other person will look at it, and then if it needs to be reversed, it's reversed. Because you know how we've always talked about, like, if that match was changed and that rule was changed, then I would have played out the rest. I would have competed the rest of the match differently.
For sure.
And so that's why it's got to be stopped right then. Like you can't
do it after the match and say, hey,
it's over.
There should have been a 2-point takedown in the middle of this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so it's like it's done right then. And if it's reversed by any chance, then they still get they don't get one of their 2 replays taken away from them. They keep their 2 replays.
Okay.
If they're wrong, then it gets taken away. Yeah.
That's a pretty interesting system.
Yeah.
When did you implement this?
I think the first one was, I don't know if it was Dallas this year. It might have been February 1st with Odessa. Chris was in Odessa, and I think I did. Maybe he did it in Dallas. I'm not sure, but I did it for the first time in Biloxi, Mississippi, which was the last week of January.
Oh,
so
cool.
and then I had it in Jacksonville and a couple places. Some coaches don't know about it. It's another reason I brought it up. But we did put it out there, and it's interesting. So that we've had a few calls though. We've had a few be wrong and a few be right. Because unfortunately you still do get coaches that literally don't know our rules.
No, I understand that as well.
You get coaches that sign up 50 students and they don't know our rules. Like they'll be yelling about something, and I'm like, this is not NAGA, bro. This is not the
There's no reverse points.
There's no reversals. Yeah, no, that is reverse me on, but he's not even facing the right way. Exactly. Knee on belly, bro. So it is amazing. So that's why we put a limit on it too, though, so we didn't have moms and grandmas and just throwing it out there. And so it's one of the things that we implemented so that we can not have that parent be frustrated and have people have good experiences and referees do make mistakes.
And they're human as well, just like the rest of us.
And then all other main professional sports have instant replay. So it's like, I think it's got to start coming to jiu-jitsu. If the match can be stopped for bleeding or an eye poke or something crazy like that. Replay. Something that's match deciding. I think that it's a good cause.
So, and this is my question, especially as a ref, do you ever think there will ever be like a distinct black and white, or is there always going to be a gray area in the rule set?
Well, I think that the rules are the rules, and then the gray area is the mistake of the ref. But in terms of like what's like a guard pass, is that what you're asking? Or
yeah. That's what
I don't think there's any gray areas. It's all in the rules.
No, I understand what you're coming from.
I'm just wondering, someone's guard, you pass their guard.
Yeah.
So I think that I think there's a lot of opinion that gets involved, people's personal opinions on what they think jiu-jitsu rules should be, or sometimes people don't study the rules, but like me personally, let's talk about Brandon personally.
Go ahead.
I think that there should be no knee on belly points. I think there should.
Really?
I think it should be side control only, and there should be side control points, not guard pass points.
Interesting.
It'd be side control, mount, back.
So what do you think that for? Like, what do you think? What do you?
I think it's guard. Okay, so here's a couple examples. I take you down, and then takedown and sweep is there too. But I take you down and I land in side control.
Well, you don't get a guard pass.
Yeah, you don't get guard passes. But you're in a dominant position. I take you down. I do an inside trip. You got quarter guard. I have an underhook. I get an easy pass. I get 3 extra points because of that. It's cheesy. Or like we drill a lot. We drop you on a single leg. We go right into an X pass.
Yeah.
Now I know that that's technically a skilled trait, and you're doing a technique, and it's a pass. But like, the other main one, whether you're like Eddie Bravo style, Mendez brothers style,
like sweeping to
Mayal brothers,
or sweeping past the guard instead of
sweeping to side control. Yeah, like why is that the same as me sweeping to half guard?
Yeah, then passing the guard.
And so I think side control, and then knee on belly to me is just the cheesiest points that there is. Yes, we can cause an immense amount of pressure in its back, but like, okay, let's talk black belt level. Let's not talk white belts flailing underneath another white belt in knee on belly. But like, how many guys are like just stuck knee on belly? It's
so black belt level.
They're tapping from knee on belly pressure. They're absolutely stuck. Like and as an MMA fighter, that's why right now you see me doing that. Knee on belly, knee on face. That Gordon Ryan's done. I've been doing it for a few years. Devin took to it. And it's because like in MMA, the turn in and the get up is incredible compared to just
everyone
sport grappling.
You get an underhook and you're trying to stand back up. You don't want to be on the bottom getting punched.
Yeah, in MMA they'll even just give their back and stand. They'll just get to all hands and feet and try to stand up. There's a little bit more wrestling based that way, but so it's hard to hold a dude down there in the belly, but that's not really why. I should get back to why. You know what I'm talking about. As your coach, you would be in side control, and I'd be like, pop up 2, just get the extra 2, just so it could be an extra 2 up, and you got this super low stance. You're practically still
side
head and arm control, and you pop a knee up, and then you get up 2 more points. Those 2 points are far easier than a takedown, which is 2 points. Are far easier than sweeping and put another man on his back, or taking his back, like dragging from butterfly or something, getting to his hips. I just think it's like, of all the points in jiu-jitsu, it's completely lopsided. The knee on belly, the effort and the result. You know what I mean? Like, it's just side control to me.
Fair.
You know, like, why isn't reverse knee on belly 2 points?
That's a good question.
You know, so and then if side control were points, then passing the guard you would still get your guard pass points. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If I swept to side control, I would get 2 plus 3 or whatever.
2 plus whatever you determine side control is worth.
Yeah, and then you know, but you know about this. A lot of the fans don't, but I've messaged coaches that bring me over 40, 50 students. I had a message threads with like 40 coaches in it from around the big areas that we go to schools, and the truth is there's a lot of schools out there that would just pull out of AGF if I drastically change the rules like that. I mean, I do teeter on the fence of changing some rules. Like, I mean, we could back body triangle on the back is 4 points.
4 points compared
to
just the hooks.
Yeah, and which I think is worse. I'm like, when I think of the worst position in jiu-jitsu, it's body triangle, belly down.
Oh, for sure.
But
especially if you're talking from an MMA fighter standpoint, I want to put you there. So now you're getting beaten and you're giving up your neck.
Me being a long-legged guy, I body triangle almost every time I'm on the back.
Yeah.
And then it's no points at any tournament besides
yeah.
You know, and so it's not just biased towards my game though. It's just like in terms of awful. I don't want to be in this position. Oof. So we do that. We allow the leg locks at purple belt. You know, but so I wouldn't drastically change it, because God's honest truth, I got a family to feed, and I don't want to. I don't want to shock the system and have
your clientele.
All the major, you know. And so if people are like, oh yeah, we'll pull our students out. Another thing that I believe in, that I didn't after I had all these messages, is I think that a submission attempt should be a point, at least 1 point. Like, you're gonna give out points for positions in a match, even though you quote unquote want to be in those positions in a fight. That's what we all get the point. That's what it's there for, right? That system is to reward people for what they should be doing in a street fight. So if I nearly break your arm or choke you unconscious, that's like the goal of jiu-jitsu. The goal of jiu-jitsu is not just to take your back or just to pass the guard or take you down. The goal of jiu-jitsu is to submit your opponent and control them, right? So
it separates us from. Per se, I'm not down, but from wrestling, right? Like, they're just trying to hold each other down.
Yeah.
Right? You know, so it separates us from them. Like, we have the extra step of having to finish our opponent. And
the biggest thing though is like where people have a argument about what constitutes an advantage or for the submission attempt. And I try and make it as clear as possible with AGF. And that's my
no steps needed to finish.
That's what I feel like is, like, when I read other rule books or anything like that, like, it can be so long or not really. It's like, what does all that mean? Like, you know, but so like, I try to have those phrases with AGF, like, for the people listening, when I talk about advantages for submission attempts, there should be no more needed steps applied to apply the submission. So like, if I'm doing an arm bar and someone has their hands connected, there's no advantage. Now, as soon as that grip is broken and that guy starts pulling that arm back, then it's an advantage. I don't believe that it needs to be all the way locked out and the guy's getting his elbow cracked.
But the fact that he broke the grip hard and he's fighting and he's extending, because
that's the point where people are going to go to a hitchhiker. That's where people are going to
go. I mean, there's still escapes and still, like, there's still stuff going on in that match that, like, the guy can get out. But
and it could be instant. Like, there was a couple times I was watching I think it was actually Kevin Williams compete, and one of the refs, I mean, Kevin went like pop, 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 like knee bar, foot lock, pop, pop, real quick. And because he went into the knee bar, kind of like almost like you were teaching last night. Like, would you give an advantage for that sweep?
No, I don't know. Probably not.
Yeah, but that was sweep based. But like, if you landed on the ground and went for it,
and then went for it. Probably.
What I was saying was, it was like it can be instant almost.
Yeah,
you know, like
from transition to transition,
especially at the upper belts.
Yeah, they're trying to hunt this up as much as everyone else. You know, or harder.
Faster.
Yeah.
Faster, yeah. So it's not like it needs to be a time limit on how long you're cranking on something or something like that. But yeah, and I was like, so, you know, I would like to give it 1 point. It would take away, you know, the advantage of being a tiebreaker. It would be worth something, you know, like, anyhow. So, but yeah, there's a bunch of coaches that were like, no. And I was like, damn it. You know, so there's some of those things that I don't,
particularly like about the being in your position, like you wish you could change more. I understand that.
Yeah, for sure. So they don't always like the rule changes. Not that we change the rules crazy, but some coaches don't want to veer away too far away from traditional
what the standard of.
But you know what's crazy is in those threads that I would be asking those coaches, none of them agree on it either. Because I'm not going to name names, but there are some ultra famous coaches in some of these threads. Yeah. And it's like, wow, I didn't know he thought about jiu-jitsu like that. Like, this dude's a world champ and he hates the freaking rules. Like this dude's not a world champ and he loves it, or vice versa, all kinds of different variations of it. But it was like, dang, and I really got to see how some people think about it. And the truth was, none of y'all agree anyways. You know, and that's why people are sub only. But sub only, the reason it's fun. Like, I love what Seth Daniels is doing.
I like watching it.
Yeah,
I think it's
for
awesome.
sure. Me and you both competed on Fight to Win Pro, but it does change the game a lot when I could just sit to guard, or when there's no points involved at all and it's just the tap.
Well, yeah, there's no urgency to get out of a bad position, which opens up roads to the submission. You know what I'm saying? Like those in between spots is where a lot of, especially upper belts, catch the sub. You know, it's not like you're just forcing mountain back all the time. It's like you're trying to take the back and then they struggle and then you catch an arm.
I don't like the slams.
Fair.
Like, we're gonna play sport jiu-jitsu. All things that you do to me, I can tap to.
Can't tap. Yeah, you can't tap midway to get
a concussion.
Slammed. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then most of the slams that I can think of, and especially that I see, I even got slammed by Anthony Mitchell. I mean, I was in full guard picking up my collars and just trying to slam me. It didn't do anything, but it did make me want to open my guard the next time he stood up, though. but it didn't do anything in terms of that position or breaking right then. But if you look at it, most of the slams all put a guy getting his head hit from the back. It's illegal in MMA. You can't hit the back of the head. No. Like, it's a bad spot to get hit. And then it's on, like, if they get put in an angle, it's on their neck. You know what I mean? Like, so even if I was full guard, you picked me up to go slam me. If I opened my guard, but I couldn't, like, jump to my feet, you're still gonna slam me even if I open my guard. You know, like, at a certain point, you know, like if I'm in closed guard, or say you're in closed guard, and I have you by the collars, and I pop to my feet, you don't know if I'm going to stand up to pass the guard until I just go, whoop, pick you up by your collars and slam you. It doesn't have to be rampage slam where I'm lifting them above my head like Ricardo Rona. It could be a 3-foot slam.
Yeah, but the fact that you're dropping and putting, hitting someone's head
on their neck and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so I like to just be able to in sport, be able to tap. That's all, right? And then, what was the other thing? Oh, the fact that, like, there still is going to be people that fly and do flying submissions. But how many people are hesitant to fly because they're worried about getting slammed? You know, I still think that there's something really cool, and you're stuck. It's a chess game, and it is sport. It's not a street fight. If you jump and you're in a triangle and we're standing up, you know, you're in a conundrum.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so, but I can slam out of that. Sometimes I end up in the triangle being tighter, but
sometimes it ends up with the dude unconscious on the floor while you stand up, you know?
Yeah, and so it's interesting, but not knocking it. I still compete in it. I know the risk. I signed up for it, Fair. You know? But if I just had, quote unquote, my way, I wouldn't have the slams in there. And because with the sub only, there is a lot of the times not a winner. Now I love what Seth does. You got the 3 refs. You and I both refed.
Yeah.
Together.
Together a couple times, yeah.
And I announced.
Yeah. It's an interesting way to go about it. I think what he's doing always with the 3 refs especially is really good. Even though you don't define winner by like the points and whatnot, you define the winner by like the aggressor and the what
Under the
doing
rules
better.
Well, whatever the reason that people are winning in that event for. No, I know it's the aggressor and all that kind of stuff, and sub hunting obviously at Fights One Pro, but a lot of these other pop up super fight companies, it's a draw.
Yeah.
Good night.
I don't like draws.
I hate that, especially when you have Andre Galvao and Henry Gracie. Andre Galvao wrecked Henry Gracie positionally, point wise, all that kind of stuff. And I know it's not a point thing; it's sub only, but it's like Henry didn't do squat, and then it's a draw. You know?
Well, and not to knock on but like in his slogan to be like street self-defense, like that's the whole Gracie system, right? Like, well, if he was in the street and he was able to punch you, you'd be in even a worse spot.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, but in tournaments as well too, that like AGF where we have hundreds of competitors and we have a time slot in a day to go on with.
Yeah, you can't have a fight go on for hours and hours.
It was interesting too because remember in the beginning when we had Nogi for AGF, we had the first half was like ACC. The first half had more points.
I remember that.
But the truth was, no one fights any different.
No, you still kind of just settle in and get them out and then hold until the points start and then you get your mount points.
That was me trying to appease some of the sub hunters, and then me just loving the ADCC event and stuff like that. But in reality, people didn't fight any different, especially at the lower ranks.
No.
Maybe some black belts or some Nogi pro divisions, people would alter their fighting just a little bit. But like white, blue, purple, they're just trying to scrap, and so they're not really. They're just
and like even when I was purple in those days, it was like more about no, I'm gonna do my game anyways, which is I'm gonna score my points as I continually chase the submission rather than just give up positionally, you know, and try to chase subs.
Yeah. And so like having draws. Another thing about having draws in a bracket format is like, how
do you determine who's third place at that point? Yeah.
Not just that, but like let's say I have 2 guys, for example, right? They go against each other. I got me versus Rodolfo Vieira.
You're right.
Rodolfo Vieira and I go against each other, and he wrecks me, but he never
taps you.
Taps me, so it's a draw. That truly doesn't leave the best man standing as a winner.
At the top of the bracket.
There's got to be some form of a decision. If it's not like sub only, no time limit, and where someone's going to eventually tap.
Eventually.
Which, in my opinion, is boring. I don't want to watch hour-long matches.
No, in terms of watching jiu-jitsu, it is.
I am a huge Keenan Cornelius and Gordon Ryan fan. I brought Keenan. We trained with Keenan.
Yeah, for sure.
I've trained with Gordon Ryan, seminars and stuff, and like they're my 2 favorite American grapplers. I have other ones too, but they're definitely the top. And when they went against each other, I believe it was Grappling Industries or something like that, and I believe it was, I don't remember if it was live streamed or if it was paid for, whatever, but I remember watching it, right? And I literally, like 20 minutes in, I was like, good night. I'll just watch the highlight or find out who won later. And that went on, I believe, for like 40-something minutes.
Damn.
Maybe an hour, but I think it was 45 minutes or something like that. And I was like, good, I didn't sit there for another 25 minutes, you know, because that length of a match, people stop exploding. The exciting jiu-jitsu goes away. It becomes, and it's completely unrealistic of a street fight.
Oh, for sure. After that amount of time, you got police and bystanders and all kinds of other people like
getting kicked in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and there's all forms of competition, but that just, to me, that's the most boring for sure. And 2015, we learned a big lesson. And that's when you were on TV with your brother.
Yeah.
And we had AGF on ESPN.
ESPN. Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
We've done so much. It's insane. People, we could talk for 5 hours, me and Levi, probably for 5 days. But we had ESPN Worldwide Sports in Orlando, Florida.
That was an interesting tournament, interesting event.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. I enjoyed my whole time in Florida when I was down there. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Went to the beach.
I spent 4 weeks over there in the
Yeah,
summer. And so they only gave me 5 minutes, remember?
Yeah.
It was 5 minutes, and I was like, what about, okay, the match is 5 minutes. What about when they get their hand raised? And they're like, you have 5 minutes and we go to commercial. And I was like, dude, that's too fast. Like, what if someone gets their eye poked or something? They're like, you have 5 minutes. Like, there's no like, oh, someone got hurt. I was like, oh, damn. So when it goes to television, that was live. So the things would be different if it's taped. It's pre-recorded, right?
For sure. You can edit and do all kinds
But those wheels start spinning in my head already, and I'm like, dang, like we can't have like even like AGF with 10 minute, 8 minute, 7 minute, like they're
at that point in time, like the average viewers lost interest.
And I think, remember, my vision always was no-gi will be on TV because the guy, and more related to with MMA and with wrestling because the guy, the untrained dude
doesn't understand the grips and the intricacies of what's going on.
Having a beer at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah.
And it's, next thing you know, you got jiu-jitsu on TV. If you start showing gi jiu-jitsu, the intricacy, unless they train, they won't know what's going on. They'll be like, why is this dude in a leg lasso? They don't even know what a leg lasso is, right? But why are they sitting here like this? And the grip exchanges, it's a slower game. Some people are fast, don't get me wrong, but you slow down no matter what in the game.
Sure, just the grips that you have to focus on is it's so important at that level.
And so then with wrestling, with MMA, I think that people would relate to no-gi more. And I think hopefully, one day, I think Seth Daniels can do it. I think Seth can get on TV. And that was my goal originally, and I kind of had to choose the path of running tournaments every day or trying to get AGF on TV. And at that time, it was like, get AGF on TV, get AGF on TV. I'd still love to do that, but I can't put on a show like Seth does.
Seth's the man when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, MMA fights, rock shows, so him going into jiu-jitsu super fights totally made sense. And he is kind of like Dana White. He curses all the time and tells people to fuck off left and right.
Uncle Seth.
Calls people Uncle Seth, yeah. But you and I know him personally, and he's one of the realest dudes I know. He
awesome.
Had faith in me.
Early on, he gave you one of your first ref gigs, didn't he?
Gigs.
He did the same for me.
I was reffing with him before I reffed with Naga. I did the super fights. That's when I fought Frost Murphy and Albert Hughes. Yeah, Albert was another guy we had on the podcast. And Seth did a lot in Texas. Now he's in Colorado. And then he went. And then actually, remember the first year the AGF was, or not year the AGF year that Fight to Win was around. He was in the center of the building, and we had AGF during the day. He had
he had the show on at night.
Yeah, he just ended up going to so many cities, so many different places so fast that AGF doesn't operate in the same marketing aspect. And so, to clear up some of that area, some people don't realize there's absolutely zero beef between me or Seth or Chris and Seth at all. He just started going Frisco, Dallas, Seattle, blah blah blah, and started bouncing around so many different places.
Putting on a bunch of shows in all kinds of places.
Yeah, we couldn't keep up with him. And then there was crazy incidences where people wouldn't let him put his stage on a basketball court.
Oh yeah.
And so there would be facility issue problems, and then he started getting into places that he would rather have with a stadium environment around his stage. It was closer and not so much 3 basketball courts across and no elevated seating.
Yeah, then you're all sitting at a table looking up over a stage.
Yeah, dude, I'm one of his biggest fans. I hope he gets on TV.
For sure.
Because he will do it the American way.
That's no lie, he will.
Yeah. So. Well, about to get my kids from school. You got any last shout outs, things you want to talk about?
Man, nothing in particular. Just keep training, keep coming to class, keep doing the thing. Jiu-jitsu is a lifelong journey. Plan on doing it till, like I said, until one day I turn 95 and I decided it's my time.
It's my time. You guys can choke me now.
Yeah, you can choke me now.
Like I've always said, one day I'll be in the wheelchair and you'll have the stick and then you can beat me.
Yeah, there we go.
Well, I will say this though. We are still in it. We're still in the run. We still got lots of work to do. We still got fights to go. We're still in the early 20s. We're still ready to rock. We've got a big career ahead of you. I think the best of your MMA career is definitely ahead of you.
Yeah, I haven't even been seen yet.
No matter what happens with the AGF or where I go or what I do, I'm owed one UFC to corner you.
One.
I can't make all of them. You know that. We got Derek and Kevin Aguilar in UFC right now. You know, and Andrea can't leave in the UFC, that kind of stuff. I just can't do it when I'm running tournaments every single weekend. But and Chris Carlino knows too. He's not gonna bitch. I'll be like, dude, Levi's fighting in freaking Vegas this weekend, bro. Okay. And and so we got lots to go ahead of us. Any sponsorships, any website, any stuff like that?
I can't think of anything off the top of my head. You know how it is. I get scatterbrained, especially after training this morning. And like sometimes I just want to go take a nap.
There you go. We did just do some good worm guard training, single X worm.
Yeah,
we are always the students. If I can say something, bring Levi out. I know that a lot of you watch my YouTubes. If you don't, watch my personal YouTube. Be Quick Jiu-Jitsu, Brandon Quick. You can look at it on my YouTube. Tons of techniques. Levi teaches probably 30-40% of some of those techniques. Being what we call purebred, right?
Yeah, for sure.
In the vampire sense, mom's favorite holidays, Halloween.
Yeah,
so we've always said the purebreds. He knows my teachings and the principles of jiu-jitsu, but he teaches like me so much. If you're a fan of Be Quick Jiu-Jitsu, me personally, in terms of my jiu-jitsu, brings Levi out. I mean, he's taught at my foreign affiliates in Europe and been to Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, around the United States. If there's ever an instructor that's sick or out or needs a class covered, everyone calls Levi first, and it's for a reason. So if you haven't trained with him, come on by Fitness Fight Factory in North Richland Hills, Texas, and come train. Have him out to your school, that's for sure. Man, I appreciate it though.
No, for sure. I appreciate you, Coach. Stuff like this is why I do jiu-jitsu. It's fun, it's exciting. I like coming in and talking and sharing a personal bit about me, as well as like putting my face out there and, you know, getting some recognition for things that I've done, even though they might be small compared to others.
I got one more coach thing.
What's up?
You know why they'll recognize you?
What is it?
Bring the blonde mohawk back, dude. How many was that? Like 5-6 years you had it?
I did have it for a long time.
Why?
Man.
Just give me a reason why. We haven't talked about this. Let's do it on air. Let's hear the real reason.
Why I haven't got it?
Why isn't blonde anymore? It used to be platinum blonde. And if someone didn't know your name,
even when the kid in the mohawk.
Oh yeah, the guy with the blonde mohawk. Yeah. You know, LFA or like, you know, why?
No particular reason. It's more of a scheduling thing. Do you know how hard it is to go in and get my hair down? And
such a shitty excuse.
That is the shittiest excuse, but
I'm just sick of it. Would sound better. I'm bored with it.
It's not that I'm bored with it. I enjoy getting my hair colored. It's just trying to schedule it with a training schedule that I keep. Is like can be rough because I have to drive to my aunt's place to get it colored by my cousin. It's like, oh gosh.
Well, that was the world's worst excuse, guys. But we're good. But
it'll be back. Don't worry.
Still gonna stand by it.
I'll get it back again.
The blonde mohawk is why people know you.
Yeah.
You're good at jiu-jitsu and MMA. You're great.
Fair.
Don't get me wrong.
All right,
but the blonde mohawk, I don't know. There's some Super Saiyan action going on.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I probably need to get it back again. Later, Coach.